Hello friends, you've joined me in Paseo Park in Phoenix. I was driving over that bridge right there and I saw what could be a pretty cool scene over there. I think it could turn into a cool painting. Let's go check it out. Right up in this area where this canal bends around right there. That's the area that I saw from up on the bridge. Something over here. Because I like how you got this slope that goes down to the canal. I like the reflection in the water. I like these trees and the shadows they're casting. Yeah. I kind of like this. In the middle of Phoenix. It's the city of canals, and some of the canals have these green belts that run along them. It's kind of nice. Yeah, let me see if I can find a good angle of this, and then we'll head back to the studio and make a painting out of this. This is the angle I chose. The canal is slightly less obvious. There's a shallower view of it. And I just like this angle because you can hardly tell that we're in the middle of a massive city right now. It looks like we're out in the countryside, and that's exactly the kind of scene I'm going to turn this into. I'm not going to include those utility poles or that wall in the background. I'm just going to make this look like a rural scene, essentially. It's amazing what you can find in places you least expect if you just keep your eyes open. I might get some pictures of the other side of the hill too. Okay, here we are back in the studio. I've got my sketch all ready to go here. So let's just dive right into turning this into a painting. So before I actually start painting, I need to get my paper ready. And the first thing I'm going to do is take this kneaded eraser and I'm going to roll it over the pencil marks. All right, paper is wet. The reason that I do that is so that the paper lays flat without me having to tape it down. And it will also stay wet for longer as I work in the first wash here. So, in watercolor, we work in washes, and I tried to limit it to 3. So the first wash, which is what I'm about to do, is for the lightest values in the painting. Painting the colors of the light itself, which usually includes the sky. Second wash would be for the middle values, and then the third wash is for the darks. And then at the very end, I will add any highlights with gouache if I need them. So let's drop in that sky. So I'm just mixing up some cerulean blue, cobalt blue, and ultramarine blue. We'll probably go a little heavier on the cerulean blue because this is a lighter colored sky. We'll see what that looks like. Yeah, that'll work. Another advantage of having the paper wet in this phase is that when you're painting a sky, the gradient, it's a lot easier to get a smooth gradient than if you're painting onto just straight, dry paper. There's a few little clouds here and there. Just leave some little white gaps, those clouds. Grab some cobalt blue light, which has kind of a teal color. And we'll mix that in right about there. I think that'll just about do it for the sky. Maybe drop just a little bit of gray in for those clouds. I've already got some gray colors on the palette, so I'll just grab some of that. Wipe off some of that excess paint from the brush. That's why I have this rag here, by the way. This is how I control the wetness of the brush. Give these clouds a little bit of form. A little bitty rainstorm had just rolled through right after I took this picture. Okay, so we will continue just working down. The sky's done. So I've modified the scene from the reference photo, which is what I was talking about on site. There's a bunch of elements in this photo which basically tell you that this is in a city, right? Or it's at least near civilization. We've got that utility pole, you've got some sort of structures in the background, and I've gone ahead and removed those. So I've made it just a flat horizon back here, and there's no utility poles right there. And if anybody walks into a gallery and sees this painting, they're just gonna think it's a rural scene. And that's exactly what I want. I'm creating the illusion of a rural scene where there wasn't one in real life. That's the power that you have as a painter. You can create a nice countryside scene in the middle of a gigantic, bustling metropolis. That's in the desert, by the way. This does not look like any kind of desert I've ever seen. So I just mixed up some nice vibrant green for this grass, which is just some cadmium yellow that I dropped into this blue sky mixture. Okay. See how many different colors there are in this grass? By the way, you want that. You want a lot of variation when you're painting green. A lot of variety. It makes it look a lot more realistic. I'm constantly adding in different kinds of colors, changing it up. Rinse off my brush. I'm gonna paint this dirt area along the bank of this little channel. This is I'm pretty sure this is it the Agua Fria River? In any case, it's been obviously modified quite a bit, and now it's just a drainage channel for storm water. Dropping some blue into the channel for the reflection of the sky. Oh, that's way too vibrant. Oh man. So I'm just gonna take that and spread it out. That's a little better. Okay, the paper is dry enough, at least right here, where I can start adding in some texture for this grass, some of the shadows. So this little line that I'm painting is basically the shadow for the edge of the grass where it meets the dirt. And by painting in this shadow, it's telling your brain that this grass is thick and that it has an edge and that it's kind of higher up, that it's thicker than the dirt. It has thickness to it. I'm painting wet into wet right now so that we get these beautiful, soft, fuzzy shapes, which works really well for portraying grass, I've found. So there's like different layers of grass as it goes back into the distance, and I'm going to come back and darken up a lot of this later. I'm just putting in the initial texture right now. just because it's grass doesn't necessarily mean it's a simple thing. It's actually quite complex. And it can be tricky to get it right, especially in watercolor. Okay, so on this closer side here, we're just gonna work on some texture. I've got the brush splayed out so it's got some teeth. I'm squinting my eyes as I look at the reference photo. I'm trying to find the balance of how much darker I want to go. That looks about right. How do you portray a field of grass without painting every single blade? Well, you do it by texture, layering texture. And it really helps to squint my eyes as I do this because I'm not getting lost in every little detail. I'm seeing the more vague, abstract shape of what's going on. And as long as there's just a few areas where you can see something that resembles blades of grass, the vague impression of that shape, that motion, your brain will fill in the rest. Creating the illusion of detail without actually painting almost any detail at all. Your brain is designed to see patterns, so we can take advantage of that as an artist. And really what we're doing as artists is creating the most convincing illusions that we can. So this is kind of an illusion within another illusion, because this is the illusion of a rural scene. But then I'm taking that concept and creating another illusion out of it by creating an entire three-dimensional appearing world on a flat piece of paper. There's some really beautiful glowing effects right here that I want to portray. Beautiful long shadows happening right there. This was a late afternoon when I stopped by this place. I was actually driving home from a CT scan I needed to have done. Don't worry, everything is fine. But I just was driving over that bridge and I looked out over this park and I saw this exact spot way off in the distance, and I had to stop. I had to pull into a parking lot and figure out how to get down there. And I'm glad I did, because I think it's going to be a pretty cool scene. So that's the first pass of texture. So I guess this would be somewhere between the first and second wash, because I'm not really painting any middle value yet. This would be somewhere between light and middle value. But when you're painting grass, you really want to take advantage of all the time you have to work wet into wet. Now, what I'm going to need to be focusing on now, so what I'm going to be focusing on next is getting the trees and the cast shadows in there. And before I do that, this patch of bare earth is a little too white. I'm just going to tone it down a little bit. Just some brownish color. That should be fine. Got lots of darker textures over here that I need to paint. But I need this to dry up a little more again, because when I paint the trees, I don't want anything to really fuzz out. I need the paint to stay where it is when I put it on the paper. I don't want it to bloom. In the grass, I do want that, but not with the trees. I want them to be sharp silhouettes against the sky. So let me let the paper dry again, and then we will continue. All right, let's paint these trees. So we are now into middle value. So gonna mix up a nice rich green for that. Threw some burnt sienna in there. This tree has got a nice reddish tint to it. That's just kind of sitting right on top of that little hill. Mix up a cooler green. And we'll connect that shape right into this other tree or shrub that's closer to the foreground here. And that shape is going to connect right into this shrub here, which is again a brighter, more vibrant, warm green, being directly lit by that beautiful sun. So mix up a warmer green, let those shapes physically touch. This is leaning into what watercolor is best at, which is flowing, because it's water. Let the water do what it wants to naturally do, instead of trying to fight it. Learn how to work with it. I'm wanting to get the texture of the top part of this row of grass here that's being lit by the sun, and you can see the individual blades like that. I think that's a pretty nice effect. And there's a bunch of cast shadows on the ground connecting all of these different trees and shrubs. So I'll mix up a shadow color, just cobalt blue and burnt umber. Kind of long, streaky shadows. Long, streaky shadows. That's one of those things that just kind of makes you think, oh, this is late afternoon or early morning. Beautiful. Now I'm going to try to do the same thing right here as I did here with getting the texture of that grass. And how I'm doing that is I'm taking my brush on the palette and I'm kind of rolling it like that, and then I'm flattening it out like that. It gives me these little teeth like that. See? So if I take it and I do like this, just little downward strokes, I can get something that looks like blades of grass. It's not quite. More like that. I wanted the teeth to be a little thinner, a little denser. And I'm trying to hold the brush at a 90-degree angle to the paper to do this. That actually works really, really well. All right. So we got some more trees right here. Connecting that color of the tree right into the shadow, letting it physically touch. Yeah, I wanted it to be just a flat horizon, giving you the impression that the landscape just continues on and on forever. Oh, we can add some more texture over here. And the same thing with the brush where it has some teeth. You're just adding a slightly darker color every time. Just bringing out that texture a little more every time. You'll also notice that the grass has perspective lines, which you wouldn't necessarily think that grass has perspective lines, but it absolutely does. You can even see it in the photo. It kind of goes like that, and then like that, and then like that. It really, really helps give a sense of motion and, well, perspective, depth. A little dry brushing here and there. You're essentially just, you have a very dry mixture of paint on the brush and you just quickly swipe it over the surface of the paper and you let the brush skip. And you let the texture of the paper kind of grab the brush and it gives you this really nice effect. Right, now we got to paint the reflection of the bank into the water, which is a much warmer brown color. We'll start back here. Now this is where I think things are going to really start coming together for this painting. Watercolor really makes you wait for the payoff. You gotta be patient. You gotta just keep pushing through the awkward phase. So now we get that distinction between the shadow side of the bank and then the reflection of the bank in the water itself. You got reflections of like grass sticking up from the bank too. Okay. I just want to darken up those really distant trees a little bit. Let's add some texture to the ground on this side. This is just like a brown gray color that I had on the palette. Okay, I'm gonna add just a few more darks within the shadows here, especially the point where the bank meets the water. It's a very sharp line. Add some extra darks into the ground over here, just some random shapes. Just accentuating the texture a little more. Same on this side. Don't get too carried away with the darks. Only where absolutely necessary. Scratch out a few light branches on these trees with the side of my fingernail, or the edge of my fingernail. I'm just scratching out some individual tufts of grass. I think it's a really cool effect, actually. I'm glad I remembered to do that. I told myself to remember to do this when I first started, and I'm glad I did. Because that just, man, that just sells it so much more. Tiniest little details can absolutely take your painting to another universe. It's crazy how that happens. Woo. Okay, well, I'm gonna call that a finished painting. So, thank you very much for watching. Please do subscribe to the channel if you have not done so already. Please check out my website, jacobbentstudio.com, for original paintings and prints, and to subscribe to my newsletter. And I hope to see you in the next video.